It's highly important um, to have somebody who knows the industry because accounting varies drastically industry by industry as far as the nuances of it, right? And SaaS software has its own particulars and nuances, and there's changes that happen, along the way as new legislation is passed and new accounting laws and regulations need to be put in place. So it's great having somebody who's very on top of that, really deep into the knowledge of that, and has done it for a long time. So they really have the experience, the experience of not just understanding um, the actual journal entries and ins and outs and financial model side of it, but also the best way to extract the data from those numbers and that financial information that somebody like in my position with my company would need to present to our board or our finance committee or other stakeholders, shareholders who might have particular questions and information, other shareholders who request, maybe quarterly audits or financials, every quarter, end of the year. So it's super helpful having somebody who understands the accounting for the industry as well as what typically is needed as far as a higher level, data perspective to these other stakeholders. And how do you model that to pull that out in an easy to read report format? So that's been super helpful. Right. So if you can maybe think about it like, I don't know, an iceberg, right? There's all of this detailed work that needs to happen underneath so that when it percolates up to just the key data points that the board members or key stakeholders are wanting and they're going to want to see in a really clear format, all of this underlying work with the in-depth understanding has been put together in such a way that it does allow for really accurate, specific data then that's presented to primarily the board. And it's usually key things that come off the financial reports. It comes off the big three, the income statement, the balance sheet, and the cash flow. But sometimes they want to see that information a little differently, or they want a little bit of an explanation of how we got there. And that's where all of this underneath helps me to be able to provide that explanation. Since Nicole's not the one in the room, a lot of times I may not be in the room. I might be having to provide that information to our CEO who is providing that information, getting the questions, and I have to be able to have that quick response to her. So I have to have all of this, information and understanding that's underneath here in order to give context to those numbers in a very quick and concise way. Because they don't want to know all of this. They just want to know sense. Yeah, it really is. And if people like me, if we could do all this, we wouldn't be coming to Indinero. We wouldn't need your services. So we're not the experts at this. We don't have, um, the in-depth know-how. We don't, this isn't all we do, right? We have a lot of other things that we do. So this is, just a portion of what we do. So it's so helpful to have somebody with that level of expertise that we can just count on. Since we don't know the answers, we don't know enough to really push back and say, are you sure that's right? Did you do that formula right? We have to just trust that you have the years of experience and the continued experience. So you're presenting it to me accurately. And now I can just ask the questions I need to, and you can help me get the most out of it. So I think it's just really important that that trust is there because otherwise, individuals from companies like mine, we wouldn't be coming to you guys if we did have that expertise. So we don't know what we don't know. We don't know enough to make sure, is it completely gap compliant? Is it exactly, um, the way it all should be expensed and accrued, deferred, all of those things. I'm counting on Nicole's expertise to know that. But then she's been really great because I do want to understand. I don't want to do it. I don't want to take over the job of what she does, but I want to understand what's going on because I am asked those questions. And so I need to be able to have enough of an understanding of what does, happen to find in the model those answers and present them to the CEO who can then give them to either she's asking or a stakeholder, a shareholder, or a board member is asking. So it's great that Nicole also takes the time to explain to me and kind of train me in a way that that the model and the information that's being pulled together by her best serves us. And so that's what's been a great kind of ongoing relationship. And I've grown tremendously over the years that we've worked together. And because my knowledge and understanding has grown, it allows me to hear these questions that were being asked by these stakeholders and say, okay, this is what they want. Can you tell me how can you pull that out so it's best accessible to me to be able to present to them? But I can say it in such a way that I'm understanding what I'm asking. I don't know necessarily how to formulaically do it because that's what she does for me, but I know enough to have that good conversation of this is what they're asking, and it's allowed for. But we did have the experience of having somebody who I very quickly knew, okay, this isn't going to work because you're supposed to know more than I do, and I can already tell some of this isn't right. And so that's when we did move on to the relationship with Nicole. Right. So if we didn't have her, we would go to another outside source, right? We'd line up another agreement with another accounting vendor. If we brought it in-house, we would be hiring probably a CFO or a very high-level controller who would be able to do a lot of this work. And that's a big cost. And I don't think there's anybody at our company right now that's in a decision-making capacity, board members, CEO, who would think that's a wise decision right now for us to spend our dollars on bringing in a really high level, controller slash almost CFO at this point. There will be a point in the future that may make absolute sense. And I'm also aware that as we transition maybe into that at some future date, Nicole can serve in that capacity as CFO um, in list in working with the board, I guess I would say, or working with our CFO. We just haven't gotten there yet because of where we're at size wise with our company, as well as some fairly active board members, along with a very highly active CEO. We just haven't felt that need to move on to bringing a CFO in house. But I guess that would be those next steps for us and I don't know if and when that would happen. That's not something that's currently on the radar. As far as Indinero, they've been on a company side um, very easy to work with from our relationship and certainly um, very fair on what the rates are and the services that we get for that, and always providing the help when it is needed. So I would say the Indinero team is very responsive even if I don't have a particular relationship with them, if they have a specialty and I'm having an issue within that area, as I say, maybe it's an expense system like Tally, or maybe it's QuickBooks, or maybe something with credit cards syncing in, they're always more than happy to very quickly jump on a call with me, help work through whatever the issue is, and just provide a resolution. Okay. So while Nicole Wallace has been our primary contact through the years and has been a great asset for us as far as our financials, our reporting, and everything kind of involved with uh, presenting our forecasting as well as tracking all of our history of our financials. It has been super helpful to also have the support of that Indinero team behind her. There's times that come up when there's some information and some help that's needed, maybe in another area, needing somebody with some expertise in another department to kind of help work through a little hiccup or an issue that we're having. And it's just really been great to have that supportive team that provides a really quick response time and a really quick resolution. So while I have my primary contact that I work with all the time, it's great to know that I have the support of a lot of experts in other nuanced areas that will also provide the help and the solutions anytime that I need them. Um, in our situation, we didn't have the internal personnel to do the higher level accounting that was required, but it was really important that who we did work with at Indinero established a relationship with people inside our company so that we could successfully work together to achieve that end goal of very accurate financials forecasting as well as reporting. So I would ask, think through what is the relationship that you are wanting to establish and what are those needs that you are requiring from the point of contact at Indinero, and ask those questions and make sure that you're set up with the right person for the needs that you need to have fulfilled. Think outside even your everyday financials and reporting. What are some of those other needs as far as maybe expenses or even your everyday accounting setup, possibly in a QuickBooks or whatever the system you might use? Do you need some expert advice periodically on that for reimbursement systems? For billing systems, we got set up with something called Bill.com. These were all things that I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but in working with members of the Indinero team and explaining what our expectations and our needs were, they were able to come back with these recommendations and then line me up with the experts from their team who could set me up so that I'm able to do our regular bookkeeping work throughout the month and then sync up for a month end close, once a month with our contact, as well as having those experts on the team when I do have that extra need or that bump in the road that I need help with. The way we book our new business in our financial model is very detailed. We actually book each customer with their revenue and renewals in separate line items. And that's not only time consuming, but it was a great way to get us set up for how information ultimately was requested from our board. And they ended up asking for additional information about deferred revenue and ARR and MRR. And Nicole was able to take all of this detailed information from our new bookings and our renewals that have been line itemed out with all of these details and pull that information into another report that gave a very thorough representation of every customer, every month, how much revenue is being recognized on a monthly basis, on an annual basis, what the churn is, what the increase is, as well as what any kind of cancellation or terming is. And we also have software subscriptions, we have recurring service subscriptions, and then we have one-time services that aren't recurring. And this information was able to be split out from a revenue standpoint for each customer, for each month, for each year, with the revenue laid out in a very logical, very easy read, easy report manner. And that was fantastic that Nicole was able to do that. So that was based on a board request. We, in the meantime, had a financial review from our accounting team, and they asked all sorts of questions and needed all sorts of information, where that report was absolutely invaluable. Just how many times I went to that. And that information existed in the financial model. However, it would have taken an extremely long time and been very tedious and time consuming to go through so many lines of an Excel spreadsheet to pull out that information. And so with a lot of forethought, Nicole had done this ahead of time with some complex formulas, but it served now multiple purposes for multiple different stakeholders and individuals who have requested information that deal with our revenue from either an annual or a monthly recurring, a churning and adding, or from a deferred standpoint. So that was something that was a rather complex ask to have that pulled together from information that was already there, but it's been an absolute invaluable report. And I think Nicole knew how to pull that together so well for my uses because of her past experience and the fact that she has worked with so many other companies who needed to see that information in that certain way.